And the Lord appeared unto Isaac and said, Dwell in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. For to you and your descendants I give all these lands, and I will perform the oath which I swore to your father Abraham. And I will make your descendants multiply as the stars of heaven, and in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Sons of promise, Isaac and Jacob.
Shalom and welcome to our program. I'm Miles Weiss.
And I'm Catherine Weiss.
And we are continuing our series today, The Sons of Promise, Isaac and Jacob. So exciting.
Well, God is a God of covenant. He's a God of promise. He keeps his promises and his oaths that he's made to these people that he's separated to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Exactly so.
We're going to see in Genesis 26, verse 3, and I would just like to read it because it is such a wonderful scripture. He warns Isaac, he says, dwell in the land that I will give to you and to your descendants after, a land that I will perform the oath which I spoke to Abraham your father. And I will make your descendants multiply as the stars of the heaven, and I will give your descendants the land, and your seed will the nations of the earth be blessed. And that's exactly what Isaac did.
And we see that today. We see what I love about this series is that not only is this for the Jews of old, it's for anybody who's bold enough today to look into the things that God's saying. Because the blessings are continuing. And we hear such a different story from the news media. I love this, and it says, Kol HaMishpechot in Hebrew, all the families of the earth will be blessed. And there's a blessing for you as well. And so we're going to go to our story now, pick up the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham has passed off the scene, and here we pick up the biblical story, the biblical narrative, to hear what God is going to do to bless all the nations of the world. Let's go.
Now there was a famine in the land of Canaan, and Isaac went to the city of Gerar.
אני חושב שאשאיר את משפחתי כאן. עד יעבור הרעב. אלוהים דיבר איתי ואמר אליי, אל תרד למצרים. יישאר פה, הוא אמר לי, ואברכך. זה די דומה להבטחה שנתן לאבי אברהם. אני אתן לך את כל הארץ הזאת, והרבה את משפחתך ככוכבים אשר בשמיים. הם יעבדו את האדמה, ויבורכו בידי כל אומות הארץ. הוא אמר לי שאת כל זאת הוא יעשה בגלל אבי אברהם. בהתעלם מהנסיבות, אבא תמיד ציית לכל חוקות והוראות אלוהים. הוא מעולם לא היסס. אם אלוהים היה אומר לו משהו, היה עושה זאת.
The story of Isaac and Rebekah takes place in the evening, which is a picture of the end of the age. Here we are in the evening in modern Israel, where God has blessed the land with fruitfulness. There's an old proverb here, not that old, that says that when the Jews returned to the land smiled. Well, that goes way back to the time of Isaac, when there was a famine, and God used the famine. There are 13 famines in the Bible. God used the famine to drive Isaac into a place of meeting with him in order to increase his character. Isaac comes to Gerar, which is near Gaza. Again, a picture of the reality that the Jews have been in the land for 4,000 years. This is an old story, and the Jewish people have been here for a long, long time, in spite of what you may be hearing on the news shows that you're seeing. Now, he goes to Gerar, which is on the border with Egypt. That's significant. In one way, it's significant because it pictures Yeshua, who stays within the land of his purview, the land of his inheritance. He came from heaven, and he came to minister to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And then when the disciples got a hold of the word, they brought it to the entire world. However, Isaac goes to this borderland, and on the borderland, there's a decision to be made. Do I go down to Egypt and look for man's provision, or do I stay within the borders of my dependence on God? And that's what he does. Isaac always stays within the land. This becomes a story about the wells, and we're going to see that in a little while. The wells are mentioned 7 times in relationship with Isaac. 7, the number of completion, the number of spiritual perfection, always associated with Messiah. There are 7 uses of the word wells associated with Isaac, Yitzhak, the smiling one, the one who is the promised Son of God. Wells are important because they're a picture of living water. They can't be a cistern full of dead water. They have to have living water in them. They have to have water that is flowing, that is alive, that pictures revival, it pictures the living water that God promises to you and to me in Yeshua, and that Jesus himself promised to the Samaritan woman. In John 4:20, he sits on the edge of a well, and he tells her that that he has water that she doesn't know about, living water that is for eternal life. And not only so, again in the Feast of Tabernacles, when the high priest is bringing water up from the pool of Siloam, Yeshua stands up and he says, "If anyone thirsts, let him come after me, and I will give him rivers of living water. Out of your belly will flow rivers of living water." That's the promise to you and to me when we follow the Messiah of Israel. We'll be back after this.
For insightful perspectives on Israel and Bible prophecy, ask for our free monthly newsletter, The Levitt Letter. At levitt.com you can read the newsletter, watch the TV program, or visit our online store. Stay current with us on social media via Facebook and Twitter.
Come with us on a tour of Israel or Petra,
or a cruise to Greece and Ephesus. Please contact us for more information.
Isaac became prosperous in the land of Canaan, but the people of the land became jealous and destroyed the wells that Isaac's father had dug many years before. Isaac dug new wells, but the Philistines claimed the water was theirs. Undeterred, Isaac and his men moved on and dug yet another well.
אני לא חושב שיהיו אלו בעיות במקום הזה. אדוני נתן לנו מקום. נקרא לו רחובות. נגדל פה ונשגשג. אני יודע זאת.
This is a story about wells. We're coming to that place where the wells are coming into the forefront of this story. I'm sitting in a field outside of Jerusalem. There is drip irrigation here, a modern Israeli invention. In fact, when you go in your backyard and you water your lawn or your plants, your shrubs, you can thank the Jewish people, you can thank Israel, because this is where drip irrigation was invented. What they're growing here is grapes. The vineyards of God are here. Remember, Amos 9:15 said, at this time, when the Jewish people come back to the land, they will plant vineyards, they will build houses, and they will never be plucked out of this land again. And that's the promise to the Jewish people. It's up to you and me to stand with them during this time. Now, these wells, they don't come easily to Isaac. They've been stopped up by the Philistines. There's dispute over them. In fact, the first well that he comes to is called Esek, which means dispute. And there's a disputing between his herdsmen and the herdsmen of Abimelech about these wells. The second well is called Sitna, or opposition. And there's opposition to the retrieving of the living water. Isn't that something? It's really a picture of our walk with God. There's dispute, there's opposition, there's always contention about you and I finding the living water. I don't know about you, but when I came to Yeshua, there was a lot of opposition in the spirit realm and even in the natural realm, because I knew that I was following after the Messiah of the Jewish people, and not everyone was going to agree with what I was doing. And so these wells picture that. You find the living water, Isaac finds the living water, and there's a dispute and there's opposition. The very first one that they come to is Lahai Roi, and it speaks of the eye of God being on the believer. He that lives sees me. And that's really the picture of these wells. The God in heaven who sees us, He is watching over us, He brings us living water. It says in these scriptures that when Isaac came here, he increased 100-fold. In other words, the fruitfulness in the land, because of the wells, because of the blessing of God, because of who He is, was so strong that He increased His goods, His wealth, His prosperity 100-fold. And that's what Yeshua promised to you and to me in Mark 10:29. He said that if you forsake all in this life and come after me, you'll have 100-fold in this life and in the world to come. And so that's the promise of God. Finally, they come to the well Rehoboth, which means room to live. And that's really a picture of the peace that can come between the sons of Ishmael and the sons of Isaac when we turn to the living water, when we settle in on the living water. If we're a son of Esau or a son of Jacob, son of Ishmael or a son of Isaac, we can have peace with one another because we can say, I have enough. There's room to live. There's enough room for you, and there's room for me. In fact, what a day it's going to be when our cousins, when our Arab cousins say to this tiny nation, you have a right to live here. There's room for everyone. We'll be back after this. Shalom, I'm Miles Weiss.
And I'm Catherine Weiss, and we want to thank you for partnering with us. You know, without your gifts of funds, we can't continue what we're doing, and we are so blessed that you are partnering with us, and we know that there are many more out there that are just waiting for the opportunity to give to this ministry, to see the Jewish Jesus revealed.
Yes, we're so grateful to be part of what God's doing in these last days, and we want to do even more as we see the day approaching. So God bless you for standing with us.
Hello, I'm Wayne Fournier, and I want to personally invite you to come with us on a tour of the Holy Land. With a Zola tour, you travel with Miles and Catherine Weiss. Plus, you have the added benefit of an Israeli tour guide who is a follower of Yeshua. Our founder, Zola Levitt, established this ministry in 1979. Today, we continue to bring you the truth of the gospel from a messianic perspective. Zola Levitt Ministries creates our weekly television program, Zola Levitt Presents, our website, levitt.com, and our free monthly news magazine, The Levitt Letter. All of this is accomplished with donations from viewers like you. If you believe this Bible teaching is worthy of your financial support, then please call us at 1-800-WONDERS. Visit us at levitt.com. Or you can write to us at Zola, Box 12, 268, Dallas, Texas, 75225. We depend on your prayers and financial contributions. Thank you. Now let's go back to the program, Sons of Promise, Isaac and Jacob.
Isaac's father and mother knew Canaan very well. Abraham and Sarah had journeyed here as aliens through this very land given to them by God, from its northern reaches to its southern boundaries with Egypt. At Beersheba, Abraham had dug a well and was careful to make peace with Abimelech, the ruling king of the Philistines. Now, many years later, Isaac had come to Beersheba, where he built an altar. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, I am the God of your father Abraham. Fear not, for I am with thee, and will bless thee, and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake.
There are 7 wells associated with these scenes from Isaac's life. And the 7th well is the well at Beersheba. It is the well of the oaths, the well of 7. It is the redug well of Abraham. And it really speaks about the generations of blessing, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In fact, the Lord says, Ani Elohei Avraham Aviacha. I am the God of Abraham, your father. And that's the story we're really telling here in this program, that the generational blessing comes through the line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In this modern world, in modern Israel, and in the modern world, there's been an incredible blessing that's come to the entire world through the Jewish people. Listen to these statistics. Since 1901, there have been 850 Nobel Prizes awarded. Of those Nobel Prizes, and I'm speaking about serious prizes, not false prizes to Yasser Arafat for peace, which is ridiculous, but I mean science and medicine, technology, literature, the arts, real contributions. There have been 850 Nobel Prizes. Of those 850 prizes, 178 have been given to Jewish people. Why? Because the blessing of Abraham is still in effect. God is a covenant-keeping God. 22% of all of these prizes given to this little group of people who comprise less than 2% of the world population. You can't make that up. It is an incredible statistic. And it's not about the wonder of the Jewish people. It's about a covenant-keeping God. It's about a God who says he'll do something, and then he does it, and it's our job to believe it. And that's available to you as well as to me.
Thank you, Miles, for your teaching. It's always good to remember that, God wants us to keep covenant and go back to the places that he's spoken, and that's what Isaac did.
He did. He's redigging wells. He's re-upping with God, just as Abraham did. And we see it generationally throughout this story. We were so blessed to be able to speak with the Friends of the IDF and the Lone Soldiers Program. We met with Ifat Bechor. She's a public relations liaison for the Lone Soldiers Program. She works with the Friends of the IDF. And these kids were just amazing to be with. It was such a blessing for us. Our sons are the age of accountability where they could go. In fact, our oldest son almost joined.
Twice the Lord put it on his heart when we first brought them there when they were young, and that was before they got into high school. And they both felt, or especially our older son, felt like he wanted to join the army, that there was something in that for him. And then when he was studying abroad in London, he said something happened to him. He was actually studying. He met with a lone soldier. Then he went back to his room studying, and he was really, I need to protect God's country and the country that I belong to.
It was quite a moment for us as parents. We received a call from London where our son was studying. Dad, I think I'm going to join the IDF. And of course, Dad was, yes, and Mom was, wait.
Finish school.
Jonathan, I think, made the right choice. He decided to finish his studies first. But when you meet these kids, when we interview these young people, they're not kids, they're mature young people. When you meet them and you hear the testimony of how they were moved upon by the Spirit to go and protect their homeland, Israel. It's just stunning. So let's go to our interviews with Ifat Bechor and the Lone Soldiers.
The Lone Soldiers are now one of our biggest programs. There are currently 2,700 lone soldiers from all around the world. They decided to leave their home and to come to Israel, to leave their families, to say goodbye to the friends who are going to college, and to serve in the IDF. And these are great people who also in Israel, not like their Israeli friends who at the end of the week go home and have a warm meal and they have their mother to make their laundry. They have to take care of themselves. So we are there to support them in every step of the way. I speak to soldiers every day, and now we have actually a bigger program that is more of a holistic program for lone soldiers from all around the world. And we kind of help them from the minute they decide that they're going to serve in the IDF, during their service, and after they finish the army, with consultant whether they want to stay in Israel or not, if they need support when they go to study, and so on. And you see them, you see that the fact that they get to know through us other lone soldiers and get the support, it helps them make the week easier. It helps them understand that they're not alone.
So tell me, why did you join the IDF?
Well, for me, I feel like I was grown up with two countries in my background. My first country was where I grew up, which is America, and the second country was my heritage and where all my people are come from, all the Jews, which is Israel. And I really wanted to help out my second country, which is Israel. And I thought one of the best ways to do that is to help protect their citizens and to help the country that we were given to by God. So one of the best ways to do that is by serving in the IDF and making sure that all the soldiers are protected, and if anyone gets hurt, you can help them as well.
What do you think about the FIDF, and personally, how has that organization helped you, and what do you see for it as a whole?
The FIDF has helped me in numerous ways. For example, this past Shabbat, I didn't really have a shirt to wear, so I went to Tiberia. I went to a store there, and with a voucher that they gave me, I was able to buy myself a shirt for the Sabbath. So that's one of the little things.
Hi, Sapphire. Thank you for joining us today. Can you tell our viewers what caused you to want to join the IDF?
Well, I'm originally from Thailand. I grew up there for 19 years, and I went to British International School. So all my friends were from all over the world. I honestly didn't know I was going to join the Army until the last year, where we had to pick where we wanted to study and what subject and where in the world. My last year, I went through a bit of racism in my school that just made me kind of stronger and made me support my country more, and I just thought it was best for me to make an aliyah and join the Army.
That's a beautiful thing. And I know our viewers at home love to pray for the IDF, and I know that there's also an organization here in Israel called Friends of the IDF. How have they helped you in your stay here, being from Thailand?
Well, they helped me visit my family. They offered me a ticket to Thailand, like a free ticket to go visit my family and spend Passover with them. So it was
That's
great.
huge.
Yeah, it's amazing. I got to spend 2 weeks with my family and with my dad. Passover dinner. It was amazing.
Being a lone soldier is very difficult. It's especially since we don't have parents. It's hard to have the support or to get people to understand what you're going through. And Friends of the IDF has just opened up that world of support and friends, and they support you like the others have said in having a trip back home, which means everything, especially if you're going through financial hard times. And I'm also a part of Green Sabar, which works with Friends of the IDF, and it just gave me my family and my friends, and they helped me through every step of the Army. And it's amazing.
I'm very glad I decided to join the Army. It made me stronger, a better person, and it made me more independent and mature. And I really love protecting people in my country or helping out, because I think it's what Israel needs. And Israel is going through a lot around the world, a lot of political issues around the world, and I just think I love supporting my country, and I think it's the best.
Thank you so much. This is an inspiring, hope-filled story that America really needs to hear.
Thank you, Miles, very much for the opportunity. And I must tell you, on behalf of the FIDF and the soldiers and myself, that to know that there are so many people out there in America, Christians and Jews, that care about the soldiers and care about Israel and its future, it means a lot, and it's not taken for granted. I want to say to you and to everybody that is in support of Israel, thank you so much.
Toda rabba.
Toda lechem.
What an honor to speak with these young men and women.
Yes.
These are people that you and I pray for,
right.
and I know our viewers do too.
Yes.
And we see what a holy call that it's on them to protect this land, to protect their people.
Right.
They're not retaliating, they're simply defending what God has given them and the borders for which they just want to live in peace in.
I know, it's so
different than the world tells us.
Exactly.
Huh?
It's so frustrating to see the way the news media portrays the soldiers of the IDF. When you meet them, I'm so grateful that we have a chance to tell our viewers what's actually going on. Really, really, it's just a whole, like you say, it's a holy calling. They're there to stand with what God has given.
And you've said so many times, Miles, you know, it's they go beyond the extra mile to make sure that they don't take anyone out unnecessarily.
I love telling the story, but they call it knocking on the door.
Right.
When when they have to do an offensive because they've been some kind of attack, they have to answer that. They'll knock on the door by calling all the cell phones in the area, asking the civilians to leave.
Please leave.
And then they'll drop leaflets in Arabic, asking the civilians to leave. And then they'll put a rocket in the corner of the roof of a building to knock on the door to say, get out of the way.
Right.
And then they'll
What
bomb
other
the
nation
building.
does that?
It's no one. You cannot get anyone to even relate to that. And yet, we hear the opposite in the news media.
It is a lot like Isaac. You know, he didn't retaliate.
He didn't retaliate. It's almost like it's in the DNA. He didn't retaliate, but he had to act. And
when they tried to fill up the wells with dirt, he just responded in God's.
Found God's way of doing it. And that's what's happening in modern Israel as well.
Right.
You know, it's just it's wonderful to see. These kids are awesome, and so. We hope you enjoyed this program. We know you're going to want to stay with us in the coming weeks because this just gets better and better as you learn about the sons of promise, Isaac and Jacob, even into today, to see what God is doing through the Jewish people and through Israel. So stay with us, come back and see us. And for now, remember, Sha'alu Shalom Yerushalayim.
Pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Our resource on this program, Beyond Words, a CD full of beautiful instrumental music created by Zola Levitt. In appreciation for your donation of $18 or more, we'll send you this inspirational music CD that you can enjoy during Bible reading, meditating, driving, or just relaxing. Call 1-800-WONDERS and ask for Beyond Words, or visit us at levitt.com. Our monthly newsletter, The Levitt Letter, is free and full of insightful articles and news commentary from a messianic perspective. Visit levitt.com to find our newsletter, along with current and past programs, our television schedule, and much more. Your donations to Zola Levitt Ministries help these organizations bless Israel. Please remember, Zola Levitt Ministries depends on tax-deductible donations from viewers like you.
This has been a paid program brought to you by Zola Levitt Ministries.